Today, I am joined by one of the top featherweight prospects in the world. He's from Australia. He's the Eternal MMA Featherweight Champion, and he'll be fighting again really soon, albeit for a new promotion. But this is a guy you are going to want to keep your eyeballs on. Justin Van Heerden joins me today. Justin, welcome back to the program. Glad we could do this. We've been chatting for years, and I'm glad that we can continue having you on this program all the time. It's pretty cool, man.
Always enjoy coming on. Always enjoy having a chat. So, yeah, it's cool to be doing it again. It's cool to have a fight booked in again and to be, just on here chatting all things MMA.
2022, you fought 4 times. 2023, an atypical year. You're not out there as much. Yeah. Can you tell people a little bit about like what happened with 2023? Because there's a backstory there, and people may not know. They look at you on Tapology, they see a guy that fights every 3 months, then he goes away for a year almost. What happened? And fill us in.
Yeah, so basically, early 2023, I was scheduled to main event in February in Perth the night before the UFC. The lead up to that fight, I broke my foot in sparring. So I got, I was unable to fight. I was ruled out for 8 weeks recovering from that injury. So then there was a case of trying to like rebook the title fight with the Eternal Bantamweight Champion, Costa. So obviously fast forward to June, and like you sort of touched on there, it was a bit of a delayed start to my year competitively. And then, obviously got to the fight in June, got to actually, go out there, defend my belt, get that one back over Rod, being that I'd fought him previously, and obviously he was the one that was fortunate on the first occasion. And then it was a case of, all right, let's get the ball, the ball's now rolling, let's start the year and see what the go is. And then obviously the UFC announced that they're doing a card in Sydney, and then the focus has shifted immediately after that fight for me to sort of make my push for that. So, regionally, I kind of took a step back and was kind of like, okay, well, I want to make my bid for the next level. I want to sort of push to fight the world-class athletes that we have available in this division. And there was sort of like back and forth. And then there was, a few things that was coming from sort of like some of these bigger promotions. And it was like, okay. And then, so I kind of was just like, all right, well, I'm just going to kind of chill and wait and see what sort of develops from then. And then, after a while, it kind of, it was just kind of not coming to fruition in the way that I would have liked. And then I kind of took a step back more so and was just like, okay, well, I got my teammates have fights coming up. I'm just going to be a good training partner, be a good body for them and just kind of do what I can and just direct my attention to that. And then at the same time, I could take a step back because I wasn't, fight, like you said, I'm not fighting every couple of months, back to back to back. So I was like, okay, well, let's just focus on those things, focus on being a dad, focus on being just in the gym and just being a good training partner for everyone else. And then it started getting to the point where it was kind of like, all right, I need to fight. So it was just a combination of things like not coming to fruition, and it is what it is. And you kind of just, then it got to a point where I was like mentally kind of just frustrated by the situation. But then, I had a chat with Alex and he kind of, gave me his perspective because he was in a similar position to me at one stage as well, and was kind of like, here's what you could do, here's what you should be focusing on. And that kind of just refocused me a little bit. Yeah, sort of as this year got started, a couple of my teammates had some fights, and then obviously Alex had the fight with Ilya, so I was sort of focused on in being a part of that camp. Joe and I had a discussion, was like, oh, we need to get a fight going. That's sort of the process that played out now to sort of lead to having this fight booked for May and getting back in there and doing my thing.
Did you have a different game plan, or did you know kind of exactly what it was that went wrong in the first fight and how to approach him in the second fight?
Yeah, well, the biggest difference was I had Joe and Alex here for my camp, and obviously I had Joe in my corner for the fight. Joe and Seb were there to corner me, and so I had one of the best minds in the sport actually with me, because the first time I fought Rod, the boys were overseas filming The Ultimate Fighter. So I didn't have that extra ace in my back pocket. So, but then obviously I always knew that that's how I could go out there and perform against Rod. And I kind of, in the first half of that first round in the first fight, I kind of showed shades of that, but it was obviously, that was the main thing, was just like having my coach there with me, and then obviously preparing in the sort of camp in the lead up, and just working out those things and knowing where I could capitalize and where I could have success, and just trusting in my skills and abilities, and knowing, obviously giving him the respect for his credentials and what he's able to do, but knowing that I'm, and being confident in the fact that I'm sort of a more well-rounded mixed martial artist and I can use my skills successfully and rely on the great coaching I have, the great training partners I have to go out there and do my job. And I feel like that's what showed on the night. It was just, I showed that the contrast between me not turning up in that first fight versus, a fully prepared, fully focused, locked in guy showing up to do his job, and then just relying on the fact that I did the work. I prepared sufficiently and have as I said, a really great coach in my corner. So I just kind of I was very, very confident in going into that fight, knowing that I was going to perform and actually showcase the abilities that I have.
Justin, you've kind of been setting the internet ablaze as of late. Everyone's losing their minds because you're fighting on Hex Fight Series 30 and you're not going to be fighting on the Eternal circuit. Are you surprised at the reaction? Because one of the things that I noticed about you, or one of the things I know to be true about you, is you haven't fought in strictly Eternal your entire pro career. You've bounced around several different promotions. And in fact, you've already fought for Hex as well. And I was kind of surprised that like everyone made as big of a deal about it as they did. Were you also surprised at that reception? Because I saw a bunch of interviews, I saw a bunch of articles, and it seemed like it was shock and awe. And I was curious if you were surprised at the reaction to
that. Yes and no. Because I guess it's hard for people, because obviously people don't know the ins and outs, so it's hard. So people are just going to take it at face value and obviously react the way that they do. And obviously, I guess a bunch of people are looking at it from a perspective going, this is crazy. Like, this is such a weird situation. He's the Eternal guy. He's going to Hex. And it's like, because I think things have shifted, because it used to be that there wasn't this competitiveness between promotions regionally here in Australia for a hot minute until sort of more recently. And obviously now there's this clear sort of competition between Eternal and Hex. And, it's like, and then people play into that. And I guess, so whenever something like this happens, it's kind of just it's like fuel to the fire and just goes crazy. But so what people kind of, I guess, probably don't really know or wouldn't really know is, so Hex have offered me fights previously. And like you said, I've fought on for them previously, but since I became the Eternal champion, like Hex has been offering me, they periodically offered me fights and stuff like that. And I've stuck with Eternal, and especially after I won the belt initially in December of 2022, I was exclusive to Eternal for a 1 year period. So I wasn't ever going to like break that or go against that, because it's like, that's where I was competing and I was fighting regularly. And obviously going into 2023, I planned to have an active year like I did in 2022. So it was like, and it was never a case of me not getting fights at Eternal or anything, because as you saw, I was, if I wanted to fight, I was getting fights. And even then, Eternal was still trying to like offer me some fights and trying to see, but they were obviously very patient with my situation, because I think everyone in the region can agree that, or everyone's got that same sort of thought process that I've done what you're supposed to do to get to that next level. Things didn't come to fruition. It is what it is. But it's not like Eternal, haven't been kind of like Cam and I have a really good relationship. So he's been kind of, touching base with me as I've been sort of sitting out for this year or kind of trying to figure out what's going on. Mm-hmm. Here and there, he's offered me a few fights, but at the same time, there was like there was like a lull in the division in a sense. There wasn't anyone really separating themselves in a sense to go, okay, here's someone cool to fight. And now that's starting to happen. And then, you also have the hurdle of two of the top featherweights in the country are my teammates, Jarrett and Seb. So it's kind of like, it just puts you in this weird spot. But no, like the thing about it was like last year in December, the exclusivity to Eternal went away. So I think in the situation now with me fighting this fight in May on Hex, I think people have this thing like I'm jumping ship from Eternal, and it's not the case. Like I'm not. I stayed with Eternal while I was exclusive to Eternal. Obviously, there was disappointment from their end with me shifting and taking this fight on Hex. They offered me a fight on the Sydney show in the end of May to headline the card and fight on that show. But I just kind of in this instance went with Hex just because I was like, this is a better offer for me. It makes sense. It's an opportunity for me to fight in New Zealand as well. There was a few things that I just made the decision for myself. Cam and I had a discussion about it. Obviously, initially he was upset because obviously you don't want to lose one of your most active, one of your most, hype fighters when you're an active champion, a guy that's kind of like been building himself up. But at the same time, he said to me, he's like, I understand why, you've made a decision to take this fight. And he's like, I'm going to support you regardless. And like, we're good. But I guess from an outsider's perspective, people are sitting there going like, oh no, like this is crazy. And obviously it is that in a sense. I mean, it is, if you look at it like that, it is that in a sense where it's like, okay, I'm like the guy that's known for being like an eternal champion and everything like that. And now I'm fighting on Hex, and I guess everyone's kind of like, oh, what's going on? And then, people start talking, the Chinese whispers start happening, and then things start blowing up. But it's really not as crazy as it seems. Like I kind of said this, when the news first came out, but like, it's just funny to me because back in the day, you used to be able to just go fight wherever for whoever, and no one cared. It was just like, and I still have that same mentality. Like I said this, like I'll fight in a car park if I have to. I just want to fight, and if it makes sense, the offer's good, and it makes sense to me, I'm going to do it. And then with the fight with Hex, they wanted me to fight Abdallah, but obviously he's ruled out for May because he obviously just fought, and also for religious reasons for Ramadan. So that fight couldn't get put together, but I didn't want to wait till June. So I was like, I still want to fight. Joe's like, we want to fight. And Hex sent the offer out to a bunch of people. A couple of people just flat out were like, nah, and just didn't want the fight. So, I think they just kept sending it out, asked a few people, and am I surprised that Barber stepped up to take the fight? No, he's, this dude's game. He'll fight anyone. He's like a fighter's fighter in that sense, man. So he's why we all like watching him fight. Like the dude's game for anyone. And he's got that type of style where he comes out to kill you. So, am I surprised he took accepted the fight with me and was like, oh, let's run it back? No. But I'm just happy I got something locked in and I can get back out there and not that I feel like I need to, but in a sense, go out there and remind people, why I'm in the position that I'm in.
From your perspective, though, I also look at it. I'm like, well, if you're on Justin's side of it, though, it's almost like a lose-lose in a way. You're fighting a guy that everyone thinks you're going to beat anybody and like beat the brakes off of. Why take the fight?
Yeah, I guess in a sense, that is going to be sort of, I guess, the perspective that gets kind of put out there. But in my mind, I'm fighting a guy that's improved, drastically since the first time we fought, and he's developed as a fighter himself. And I'm looking at it like this is a dude on a 2-fight win streak. I know he's coming off like he lost a split, like got given a split decision. It was a ruled split decision against Sam, but I believe he won that fight. I've watched it back again, and I still believe that he won that fight. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm fighting a dude that's vastly improved, and he's on a 2-fight win streak, and he's dangerous. And like you kind of said, like this guy, he's obviously I fought him already. I've been in there with him. I know he packs a punch. I know he's got some power in those hands, and he's obviously, he's got some good skills. So yeah, I'm aware. I'm not taking this fight as like, with the mentality of like, it's going to be a cakewalk. Like that'd be silly to do that. Because you can't do that with anyone. It doesn't matter. Like you can't rule out anyone. And it's not even with the sake of the sport that we play with like 4-ounce gloves and there being a puncher's chance. Like you just shouldn't discredit anyone regardless of the situation. So I'm certainly not doing that. Other people might be, and that's fair enough. I can kind of, if I put myself in their shoes and their perspective, I can kind of see why they would do that. But like you sort of said, in a sense, I guess from the outside point of view, it kind of looks like a lose-lose, but I don't see it that way. I see it as a guy who's going to be coming with all of the intent to try and put me away and get back, the win that I have over him. And at the same time, it's an opportunity for me again to go out there and compete and look for another high level sort of performance and get another crazy sort of good highlight reel finish, and that sort of adds to my sort of win streak and my sort of momentum. And that's what these promotions want to see. That's what these big promotions want to see. They want to see you go out there, do your thing, put people away, and that's what I've been able to do, and that's what I want to continue to do. So and I've got a really good dance partner to go out there and do that. I'm going to be I got to be on my toes and ready, because this dude's going to come forward and throw heat for as long as that fight goes, and I can't lapse. I can't take it easy. I can't be like, oh no, this is going to be sweet. And that excites me. I like that. I like the fact that that's the sort of opponent I'm presented by. So yeah, I'm certainly not looking at it like that. I'm looking at it as an opportunity for me to go out there, do my thing, showcase my improvements, and hopefully get another good finish. And continue to sort of show these big promotions like the UFC that, I'm the real deal and I'm ready, I'm ready to showcase my talents on the world stage.
Justin, I think you're one of the top featherweight prospects in the world. I do think that you already belong in the UFC and have for quite some time. What kind of guy is Dana White getting when you set foot in the octagon and compete at the world's highest level?
I go out there with the intent to dominate and, make it a complete shutout. And if the finish comes, that's what people can expect. I think there's like a similarity to sort of someone like Oliveira. Like if you give me an opening in those exchanges in the grappling, like I'm gonna find a submission. I'm gonna find your neck. I'm gonna find something, and I'm gonna put you away. See my name on a card, or you see that there's a fight book with me in it. Like expect violence, expect pace, expect a high level, performance, great fight IQ, and finishes. That's what you can, that's what people can expect. Like I come out there, I do my job, and I finish fights, and I fight anyone that they put in front of me, and I'll fight at any weight that they want me to fight at. Like I'm just there to go out there and test myself. Like they could call me tomorrow and say, "We need you to fight at welterweight," and I'm going to take the fight because that's what I do. I fight. That's my whole thing. I'm a fighter through and through, and I enjoy the entire process of this game, and that's why whenever I step in there, I feel I'm able to put on these performances because I tick the boxes and I do the damn work, man. I kill myself every week, every day in a gym with absolute monsters to go out there and perform and showcase my skills. And I feel like time and time again, that just keeps showing why I'm sort of one of the top people in the world in this weight class. And like, why I'll continue to sort of keep pushing forward and keep improving. But man, in short, basically, if you see my name in a fight or on a card, expect a high level performance and a finish.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have an opportunity to watch Mr. Van Heerden perform on May 4th. Make sure you check that out, Hex Fight Series 30. Justin, before I let you go, my third grade son knew I was going to interview you. So he asked that I ask you these questions. These are his questions. So I said, sure, pal, no problem. I'll ask him. So here we go. No pressure. So he wanted to know what your favorite animal is.
A lion.
Favorite Pokemon.
Ooh, see, I knew this was going to be the real questions. This is the high pressure questions. All right, favorite Pokemon. I'm going to go with Mewtwo.
What is your favorite video game?
I'm going to go with a niche answer here. It's going to be PlayStation 2 game, Lord of the Rings and the Two Towers.
What do you like better, Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat?
Well, I certainly grew up playing both, but I guess if someone had, if someone's like, the fate of the world's at stake, you got to give me an answer, I'm going to go with Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat. Okay. And we will put a bow on this. I'll ask you two questions. These are my questions. Who is your favorite female fighter, either past or present? Can't be Australian, though.
I'd have to say, just based on the impact that she had and like the performances that we saw and the absolute high level technical ability that we saw, I've got to go with Joanna. I think Joanna Jędrzejczyk is, just her run, her ability to sort of go out there and perform the way she did and showcase the levels that she showcased in like the biggest promotion in the world. I'm sure she inspired so many young fighters and particularly young female fighters to get in there and do their thing and chase this sport and chase their dream of being a fighter because, incredible. So, and she recently just got inducted to the Hall of Fame. So no surprise there, but I have to say Joanna.
And final question, who's your favorite heavyweight fighter, whether it be in Bellator, PFL, UFC, all time?
I'm going to say Big Country.
Oh, wow. Country. Roy Nelson. Nice.
A lot of people probably, based on the fights that he had, especially back in Strikeforce and stuff like that, like this dude was just knocking people out, but people didn't realize like this dude's a high-level grappler, like a world-class grappling ability as well, like a well-rounded mixed martial artist who didn't always get to showcase those other skills. But it's hard to go past Big Country for me. I think he's just someone that you if his name was on a card, you have to tune in and watch because someone's going to sleep.
Justin, I appreciate your time. If there are any sponsors, anyone that we need to thank before we go, let's do it.
Look, first, before we even talk about any of that, I want to thank you for having me back on, giving me a chance to have a chat again about all things MMA and everything else, especially, and then the hard hitting questions, those were the ones I was the most nervous about. So yeah, hopefully the answers were of a high standard and high caliber, and I'll have to get some feedback off you. But nah, man, I just want to thank all my, everyone that supports me, everyone that tunes in, everyone from my team, my coaches. Most importantly, you got to give Joe Lopez some credit. I don't think he gets enough credit, man. I think people kind of forget that this guy is, like, without a doubt, one of the best minds in the sport, and obviously the results showcase that. So yeah, and obviously if you look at my career, look at what's happened in my career since I made the move to freestyle and did that sort of shift in my career too. So yeah, and just, man, everyone that tunes in, that watches the fights, that supports regional MMA, that supports MMA as a whole, like, the amount of messages and stuff I get when I have fights coming up and stuff like that from people, and it's cool to see that, and it's cool to see people that I don't even know who I am, and go, hey man, I'm excited to see you fight, and I'll be tuning in and stuff like that. And especially young guys, like young kids and that are like watching MMA, and maybe they're looking at fighting, or they're amateurs, or they've had a few like intercomp fights here and there, or grappling comps and stuff like that, and they want to do MMA, and then you get messages like that. It's cool to see. So yeah, I'm just thankful to be in the position I'm in. But I guess it's cool for me to sit here and go, I love being an MMA fighter, and I do this, for me and for my own selfish reasons. But as I always say, man, my biggest motivation and my biggest sort of drive is my daughter, and just to show her the ability that you just got to find your passion, find your dream, chase it down no matter what. And even if everyone else thinks it's the silliest thing in the world or the most boring thing in the world, it doesn't matter. As long as you love it, we're going to support you. The people around you are going to support you, and you're going to be able to take it as far as you want to take it. And that's the only thing that I want to do and keep doing.
Well, Justin, thank you again, sir, for being on the program. I look forward to having you back very, very soon before that UFC debut.
100%. We'll do that for sure. We're going to manifest that's going to happen.